Hello. I was given a pile of video recorders recently. I did a poll with you guys asking you which machines you'd like me to work on first. The first one was a Grundig 2x4 Super, which I've now done. Well, it works more or less. So the second in the pile was N1700. Takes these kind of tapes, Philips VCR-LP machine. So I've done quite a lot of these in the past. I know them reasonably well. There's a fighting chance of being able to get this one fixed. And this one seems fairly intact. The least popular of the three machines I was given was another one of these that looks like it's a bit of a spare parts bin, and I may end up using it as such. So let's start with this one, have a look at what we have and see what it does when we power it up. So it looks reasonably cosmetically tidy. It comes with a power cable and nicely marked up plug. You will possibly remember also that unusually this one has had audio and video output sockets added. I prefer to use BNC for video. It's all a bit loose as well, so I might change that. Plus I have my own preferred circuit. Let me show you that. Here's some boards we've had made up. The original design by Stefan Heimers. I made a few small detail enhancements, and PCB layout by Wacker. And I've had these boards available for a while. I've sold some actually. I've still got a few spares to sell. They can be used either in composite video mode, or if you want composite and S-video, you'd need two of these boards made up. So composite is the way I've tended to use them because my digital time-based correctors have a digital comb filter and produce really nice results. But if you don't have access to that, you might like to add S-video, where you have one set up for Luma and the other for Chroma. These boards, when populated, I've got one here populated for composite video mode. I think they're really smart. Like I said, I've sold some of these, and we've had a Mark 1.1 made up. Few detail enhancements on these, mainly some extra mounting points, the option of adding an LED so you can see when it's powered up, and some different labeling for some different component values. So those are also available. If you'd like to buy some of these off me, let me know. I've got about 40 of them, so I don't think we're going to run out too soon. I've not populated any of this type yet, but it should be exactly the same as that. Right, so I might end up installing that in here, but let's first and foremost see if we can get it working. Let's have a look underneath. I think we did have a look at this one actually the other day when these machines arrived. Here's the power supply amongst other things, and there's a chip that fails frequently on these. Let's see if we can find that. Okay, this I see here, there's an LM723, and if they fail, very often you just don't get any life out of the machine at all. That's associated with the 2N3055 transistor here, and provides 12 volt, I think it is, regulated supply to the machine. Looking at the deck, this is the most troublesome belt here. This is the drum belt, and that appears to be in good order, which is quite unusual. So this machine's clearly had some servicing and has been in use relatively recently, I'd suggest. That, when it falls off, is a right pain to replace. One, because they're hard to get, and two, because you have to kind of wiggle it and jiggle it to get it in to the motor's pulley there, and I find slacking off these screws is the best way. They've got 3 screws here. You slacken it off and you can kind of feed the belt through, trying not to drop the belt off the capstan pulley here, so it's a right pain. Another belt here, this goes to the tape counter, and again that looks to be in good order. So either this is an abandoned project, or it has been in working order. So doesn't look too bad, does it? Some of these machines have a figure 8 mains input socket there, I think it is, and some have the captive power cable. This has the captive power cable, which is probably my least favourite arrangement, and I'm sure it's supposed to hold the cable a bit tighter than that. But anyhow, that's fine. Let's power it up and see what happens. Unlike later V2000 models, these don't have any horrible reefer mains filter capacitors that will explode when you power them up. I think one thing I will just check is the fuse in the plug. I have a N1700 tape here. I know the tracking is a little bit wobbly on that recording, but it'll be good enough just to see if the machine is alive. Okay, so there's a 13 amp fuse in there. We'll change that for something like a 2 or 3 amp. Right, I'm going to power this up on my isolation transformer. Here goes. The clock is working. That's always a good sign. When you press on, it will lace up. Slightly odd noise. Does that mean it's failed to lace? No, that sounds more like a howling motor. Yeah, the motors do fail on these. That might not stop it from working. Hit fast forward. Fast forward is working. Rewind. Not getting much rewind torque. But enough. No, that's okay. Play. Right, I'd say that either the capstan or the drum motor has got a knackered bearing. They do tend to do that. It might be good enough that we can at least see if we have an image out of it. Let's try connecting up to those sockets at the back. Just disconnecting my cable here that I was using on the V2000. Some people are asking me about this. You can make this up yourself. 6-pin wide space DIN connector there, and I've got the pin out. It tells you how to wire that up. In this case, it's gone to an audio cable and video. So you can make those up yourself. I don't know of any way you can buy them ready-made. They seem to be compatible across Philips and Grundig V2000 machines. Let's try playing that tape despite the noisy motor. And I'm not seeing anything. The worst of the motor noise seems to have abated, but there's no hint of an image. It could be that the video output connectors are not working. Maybe I should try the aerial output. So we're actually getting a black screen as opposed to nothing. And I might be hearing tape damage. Don't know about that. So, what's my priority? That horrible noise, possible tape damage, or the lack of any video output? I think we'll have a look at the deck first and see if it looks okay. Make sure it's not damaging tapes. I don't want that to happen. And why no output? Well, it could just be the heads contaminated, but normally get a slightly different result if that happens. So I don't think it is. I think it might be an electronic fault. Okay, let's take a look. Alright, I don't think it is damaging the tape in any way, so I'll stop worrying about that. I do need to find out which of the motors is making that horrible noise. I suspect it's a drum motor. The drum is clearly spinning okay because the machine would shut down if it wasn't. It all seems to be fine apart from lack of picture. Once that motor settles down, it seems okay. Yes, it is the drum motor because I could hear the oscillation in that noise timed with the rotation of that head drum. So we may have to swap the motor over with possibly the parts machine if the motor is any good on that. Had I inspected the heads with the microscope when I first got this machine? I think I did. Okay, let's just clean them briefly. Don't think it's going to help. I don't think it is the motor. I think it's the drum itself is making that noise. The end float seems about right. Oh, I need to look at how that's... Yes, it may just be that the shaft on that needs a drop of light oil. Okay. Oh, that could be an easy fix then. Oh, that's good. Right, if the heads were contaminated, I'd see a stripe on this. Well, there is a little bit. I know it's not relevant to this no picture at all problem, but tracking errors can be caused by this post here. This needs to be kept very clean, which is why there's actually a tool for doing that. Well, sometimes mounted in here. Okay, let's investigate this noisiness here. I think I'll take this out. Switch it off. That motor's just span up for a few seconds. It does that sometimes. When removing the head drum for one of these, it's best if you have enough hands or maybe a helper to hold the pulley in place at the back. Because if you let that go, then you'll get into the situation where you lose this terrible belt location and it just becomes a lot harder. So if you have a spare hand to hold that, it's useful. So I think, right, first thing you have to do is Allen key for these small grub screws here. I thought it was 1.5 hex, but that's not fitting, and nor is 2. Ah, that feels much better. iFixit kit to the rescue. Holding the pulley at the back with this hand, we'll slowly bring the head drum out. I've let go of the pulley very carefully at the back. Do not jostle the machine. And I've also got to be very careful, of course, not to touch these head tips. So clean this shaft. I'll apply a drop of oil on that in a moment, but first I'm just going to inspect the head tips again briefly under the microscope. While I'm here, I'm just cleaning the where the head drum shaft sits, and that is really dirty, so that might have been the cause of the howling. Really very dirty. Right, let's have a quick look at the heads. Let's look at those two head tips. This is one with the red windings. Looks absolutely fine. And of course the angle's a little bit difficult to see, but I think we have some head protrusion beyond the drum, as there should be. You can't easily see head wear unless it's extreme, but it does look intact. The other one has green windings, and again, that looks absolutely fine. So from what I can see, the heads should be serviceable. I'm going to clean the inner part of this bearing a bit more with a bit of isopropyl alcohol before I refit the shaft and include some fresh oil. So I'm just going to very lightly oil the shaft. I'll fit it back into the machine whilst holding the drum pulley at the back. Just lining it up with the drum pulley, and not too tight. It had about 1 millimetre of end float, which might have been a tiny bit more than it needs. I don't know what the specification is, but it certainly needs to have some end float. So this is not a machine that you could work upside down or on its side, because the head will tend to slop. Okay, there's a pull and push on it. You can hear the end float. That's spinning freely. Okay, let's put it back onto its feet and see if when I spin it that noise occurs. Well, that noise seems to have completely gone, so let's power it up and see if it really has gone when it's been driven, and if so, that's an awful lot easier than changing the motor. But I've had the motors fail before and they do make that sort of noise. Much happier. I'm not sure if the head drum is running at the right speed. That's a concern. The sound of the head drum is around 2000 Hertz. I'm going to check that against a working machine downstairs. Okay, I've just swung this board up so that we can have a little look. This is the AV panel that somebody's, or AV output circuit that somebody's fitted to this. I'll be replacing that with my own preferred circuit. But right now I'm interested in the FM output from the heads to see if there is anything. Now, the diagrams do show us where the head signal, the FM envelope is, but they don't show me terribly clearly where the head switching signal is. Not terribly clear on that, but I'll just see if I can see anything that looks like an FM envelope, and it should be one of this connector here. I think so. So we should be able to pick it up here. Also it's a resistor R702 100 ohms, which is that one. So let's see if I can see anything on that with an oscilloscope that looks even remotely like an FM envelope. A little bit fiddly to set this up, and we won't have the tracking right for this tape or anything like that, but we'll just see if we see anything. 20 milliseconds per division would be a good place to start, and 200 millivolt peak to peak. So if we go down to 100 millivolt per division, that'd be the order of things. Okay, let's power it up. When I move the tracking around, do I see anything? It looks like I have many missed tracks. That's what it looks like to me. Like I'm running at the wrong speed, or the head drum's at the wrong speed, but I've confirmed it's correct. I do believe there is some FM envelope in there, but it looks like there's a massive tracking error. Unfortunately, on the 1700 there's no freeze frame option. On the 1502, when you stop, you're in freeze frame, and it can help debug this sort of problem. But I think I should be seeing a picture with many mistracking bars. Okay, and I'm not seeing anything at all. So we may have a signal processing error of some description. Just looking at the input to the modulator, I should see something, and it's completely blank. Just a DC voltage. So there is clearly some kind of upset in the video processing. Let's try and isolate where that is. Right, I think it's F4 pin 2 that should give us our Luma output, and pin 3 is the chroma output. So that's this connector here. Let's have a look at the output signal from this panel. Oh, that noise has come back from the head drum. That's annoying. That looks like some kind of video signal. I think that's a video signal of sorts. Yes, it is. Oh dear, so our head drum noise has come back, but we have some kind of a luminant signal coming out of this panel 7 board, so I think the fault may lie in the panel 3 board, and I don't like this AV output. There's a possibility that that's short-circuiting the signal to the modulator. It's not that likely, but it's possible, so I may disconnect that. Right, let's have a look. I'll desolder it later, but I think for the time being, just to be on the safe side, I'm going to completely remove the entire video output circuit, because I don't know what the circuit diagram is and I don't trust it. So I'll remove the whole thing. And we'll replace that with the circuit board that we do know and trust later. With that done, let's look at this point now on the oscilloscope. Oh, we see something now. We have a video signal and that awful noise back. Right. We're going to fit one of our video output PCBs, which fortunately I have one ready made up to go. Okay, so fortunately I have a board ready to go. I just need the 75 ohm coaxial cable to connect it up to the video input and the output. I'm going to change the phono for a BNC connector just because that suits me better in my studio. But before I do that, let's now see if we can get a signal from the modulator, just the aerial output, onto the monitor. I'm expecting to see something with loads of mistracking bars, but at least we'll have an idea whether the machine is fundamentally working. I've got the aerial output there connected to the TV and that circuit removed, so I'm expecting to see an image, if we've got the TV roughly tuned in, some kind of image that's going to have loads of mistracking. Yes, precisely what I predicted. A picture with loads of mistracking. That's what I thought I saw on the oscilloscope, so good. Let's fit the AV connector, and then we need to work on fixing that horrible noise again and the mistracking issues, which would explain why I thought I heard crumpling noises earlier. There's something adrift on the tape path. We'll come to that later. Okay, I've fitted my video output connector, so there's the 75 ohm coax cable going down here to the board. I've still got to set the brightness level, but they'll really need a decent stable picture to do that. But I think that will give us a good video output signal. We'll test that and then we can have a look at whatever the tape path problem is. Okay, let's try it with the AV output. Yes, there's a good colour signal under there with loads of mistracking and that horrible noise coming out the head drum again. Alright, despite that awful noise, that is progress. So I've got to find out what is wrong with the tape path. That's the fundamental now. You know, it's a bit of a difficulty in these machines, that if you're having tape path problems, you just can't see what's going on. You can't get to see the head very well at all. You can quite easily look at the deck by just taking that off, but it doesn't get you anywhere in terms of being able to see what's going on. Well, you can tell the machine it's got the carriage in and tape in when there isn't. So what we can do is push down on here and slide along with that. So this is a key one here, this item here, this slider. And with that in place, now we can lace up. We're still having that annoying noise, and we can hit play and we can see everything, but that's still not great because you can't actually see what the tape is doing. In theory it might be possible to play a tape like this, and if you can get in there to operate that lever, yeah, maybe you could get it to lace up, but you're going to be all over the place. You're fighting springs and things, and you're going to have your hands full pushing that lever across. and I think there's a risk you're going to hit something with the head, so I'm not keen on that. So what can we see? Well, there's no obvious problem. The cleanliness of this is very important. This post here, and that is clean. I've gone around the drum and cleaned that, the lower drum. I've cleaned the capstan here. The pinch roller looks fine. The guides around here are all okay. But when I was looking at the pinch roller, I thought I'd check it spinning freely, and I found it's not. Not really. And the reason it's not spinning properly is the weirdest thing. It's at the bottom of the pinch roller is scraping the audio control head. Let me give you a better look at that. So we can see a difference in the alignment, if you like, between the vertical of the pinch roller and the vertical of the audio control head. So that's wrong, and leaves me wondering what's wrong. Is the pinch roller out of true? That would certainly cause the tape to ride up the capstan. Well, pushing it into place like that, it doesn't seem to be. Is the play not going far enough forward? Let's just check that. Is that not going as far forward as it should in play mode? What we can do for that is I'll push the lever across again, put it into play, and now power it off. Oh, quite annoyingly that jumped back with the... That wasn't going to help. Okay, that didn't help. It is pushed fully forward. When it's in that place, the pinch roller is no longer rubbing on the audio control head. So maybe we've just got an alignment error in the audio control head, that it's tilted over. Alright, so it might just be that we've got a massive azimuth error on the audio control head, which would be a case of these adjusters, there's 3 adjusters here, having been twiddled. But in itself, that's not then going to cause serious tape damage. I don't believe so. So we still don't really know why the tape is getting damaged, and I'm assuming that the tape is riding up here somewhat, which is causing that crinkling noise we're hearing very slightly and causing a massive tracking error. But there's no real way to see the tape during playback. You could take the front edge off this, the front lid off that, take this off, and you get a little bit more visibility. But where this is actually hidden under this part of the cassette shell here, so you still don't get very good visibility. So it's a bit of a failing in this format that access is so poor. I'm just going to have a look, I think, at this alignment on another machine and just confirm whether there's any possibility that the pinch roller should be that close to the audio head, or something's terribly wrong there. You know, like something might be bent. Okay, it's still all over the place. I've been having a look at the audio control head, and there's just something wrong here. This all seems a bit sloppy. See, the sound is coming and going as I move this bar. I'm sure it's supposed to be locked better than that. Well, I think so. I think we're going to have to compare that to a known working machine, aren't we? So here we are on a known good N1700, and yeah, there is some movement in that arm. It seems to be locked at the top. It doesn't. You can push it down, but it won't come up. So it's pretty spring loaded, so that it should be on the top. So there is some more inward movement possible. No more upward movement. So that's how the alignment is set. The alignment is set when it's fully up. So maybe we have a spring not quite right on the other one that's not locking that into the upper position. So I think it's on this pillar here, it's fully up against the pillar there. Right. That's the position of the audio head relative to the pinch roller and capstan. So we need to check it's the same on the other one. I've got a completely random off the pile N1700 here. This is not the other one that came in with the one we're working on. This is another completely random one that will be featured another day. I can't power this one up. This one looks much straighter. The audio control head seems to be much more vertical, and even when it's away from the capstan, the pinch roller runs freely, albeit it doesn't sound that great. So maybe it's just an alignment fault on that other arm, or maybe it's been got at by somebody. Let's have a look at just aligning it slightly better. With no reference to any alignment tapes or anything, just this. I bought this specifically for adjusting these machines. I'm going to adjust this to see if I can get the audio head a little more vertical, and I know I'm going to have to do this whilst playing a tape later, but let's just see if I can adjust that and if it does the right thing. It doesn't feel like I'm breaking off any seal like this seal here. Let me just have a look and see if I can get that better. Okay, I've adjusted these. Clearly this isn't going to work properly. You know, I will certainly have upset the audio control head alignment, but at least now this is vertical. The pinch roller is still scraping against it, but it is scraping against it at the top, bottom and middle rather than just the bottom. It looks much more vertical, and when fully laced like this, that's clearing it nicely and it looks nice and vertical. So it's worth trying to see if at least it doesn't seem to be damaging the tape anymore. We're almost certainly going to lose capstan lock now, because I've almost certainly taken out of alignment for the control pulses. But let's just see if the machine behaves a little better. No, not really. And I can still, I think, hear tape damage somewhere. Right, comparing it to the known good machine, that does lock up at the top there. You can push it down and you can push it in, but the top location is the same as a known good machine. Other things is that the deck is fully laced. I've checked that the position here of these two guides is the critical guides. This is the input and exit positions here. They are the same as on the known good machine. If the head wasn't fully laced, we could get some weird mistracking problems. There's always a possibility that the pinch roller is causing the tape to ride up the capstan, so maybe a defective pinch roller could cause this, but normally you would see it play maybe for half a second and then start to shift, not be wrong right from the get-go, because it would take some time for the tape to travel up the capstan. So I'm not really blaming the pinch roller. It would be a quick thing to try to change that with another one, but I don't think it is that. So at the moment I don't know why we have a massive tape path error. With something like VHS or Beta, you can look just physically look at the deck and see what's going on, but here it's really hard. I think the problem is probably on the exit side, somewhere along here, but I just can't see it. Yeah, let's change the pinch roller anyway, it's easy enough to do. Okay, so we have a second-hand pinch roller here from another machine. It's untested and it may be absolutely no better than what's on there, but the chances of it causing exactly the same failure mode are vanishingly small, given I've never seen that particular failure mode before. Okay, so that's the pinch roller installed on this one. Okay, let's try it on the borrowed pinch roller. Interesting, for just a moment it wasn't too far out, and then it starts to ride again. You see that? Just for a moment it wasn't too far out, and then it moves. So we could be looking at pinch roller trouble, but none of these pinch rollers seem to work. Put the original pinch roller back. I had previously actually flipped it over, which can occasionally help for debugging problems with pinch rollers, and I've now flipped it back to its original position. So of course the fault will still remain. Let's just have a quick look at it though. Yeah, it's doing the same sort of thing actually. For the first moment it's not too bad, and then it starts to ride. Okay, we need to find a better pinch roller somewhere. So we have a washer at the bottom. Right, this is the pinch roller I've just borrowed off the spare parts machine, the VCR-1, which I wasn't planning on scrapping, but I just desperately need some parts here. So there's a thin washer at the bottom. The pinch roller itself looks a little shiny, but it is what it is. And then we have two washers to go on the top and the circlip. So let's install that. I've already oiled the shaft gently. If the tape still rides, crumples and creates mistracking, I think we're looking at some other problem, not the pinch roller. Perhaps insufficient back tension. However, I think I've already eliminated that. We'll come to it in a minute. Right, let's try that one. About back tension. When this guide here is around the back, you can put your finger on it or something like a head cleaner stick and rest it on there and slightly increase the back tension. If the back tension is wrong due to worn shims in the supply spool here, then you will increase the back tension, and if that was the problem, the picture would stabilize. I did try that briefly earlier and it did not help, but I may end up trying it again. Okay, so it's not good. Let's try that back tension trick. Maybe have a bearing on it. Look. Okay, now we just have the problem that the tape is sitting correctly, and so it's missing the audio control head. The audio's disappeared, and we no longer have any. Well, we don't have any tracking because we don't have any control pulses. So the machine is fundamentally working. Let's see if we can get the audio back in. Right, is the tracking control working? Don't know, not sure about that. Tracking's working. So if I can just get the back tension correct, so that the tape doesn't keep riding up the capstan. Okay. So the back tension is too low. We could probably refit the original pinch roller, and I think I will actually, because I think the original pinch roller looks better than the one that came out the other machine. It's a little bit shiny, that one. Okay, so our problem is in the supply spool here. The back tension setting on these machines is not great. It always was the weakness of this format. Right, let's change the pinch roller back and then take this spool assembly apart. Okay, so this is the supply spool, and as it rotates, there's a friction device inside this assembly which should provide some drag, and I think it actually provides drag against this spool. I think the way it works is that the relative speeds of the two spools are such that it should be a constant amount of drag or back tension between the spools given the position of the tape. So as the tape empties from one spool, you would think that if the back tension was set by a fixed load, the way it is in some tape recorders, it would be too much as the tape started to get less on the lower spool, which is the supply spool, as it started to empty because it was rotating faster. But its drag surface, I think, is the top spool, and because that's rotating slower, the effect is that the amount of tension on the tape remains the same-ish regardless of where it is in the tape. It's not as good as a properly metered back tension system as on most video recorders, but you know, it is what it is. So we need to take this apart and look at the shims between these surfaces in here. A little while since I've done this, but I have done so many times before. Hopefully I can remember what I'm doing. So off with that top component. Then we have a pin here. Take that pin out. The amount of shims you have in here alters the amount of load that this has bearing down on it on the friction surface underneath here. Right, this is a bit fiddly to take off. I think you really need a proper circlip pliers for that. Okay, hopefully I can take that off. And it didn't ping across the room. That's good. Right, so these shims, and there are several in here, are what set the amount of friction between this felt and this wheel here. There would have been, back in the day, proper alignment procedures for this, special tools, special tapes. We don't have access to any of that, of course. We're just going to have to sort of put a finger in the air. This felt could potentially need a little roughening, so we'll do that a little bit, and I will manufacture some kind of a shim to sit in here and provide a little bit more load. I've started by just applying some scotch tape to this shim. You really don't want to go too heavy on this, you know, very, very small extra amount of thickness is all it takes to get the correct amount of extra load. On the other hand, do you remember I was given a pile of spare parts for 15 and 1700s, and it may include some of the shims we need. So a little bit of experimentation with these might give us the correct amount of back tension. Okay, I may have it right or may have it too high. We'll just have to see, put that together and see what happens. If it's too high, the tape will probably just stall. But let's give it a go. It's stalled. Okay, it's not running at all. So, too much back tension. We just need to experiment with that a bit. I'm not sure I'm winning here. I think I have roughly the right amount of back tension on there, but the tape is still riding up the capstan. I'll compare the feel of that amount of back tension to a known good working machine and come back to you. Well, having compared that to my other machines, I would say that back tension is on the slightly higher side of the range of my other machines. They're quite variable, but yeah, I can. If I spin it, it stops pretty much immediately. On some of my other machines, it'll carry on rotating for a certain amount of degrees. So I don't think I should be increasing the back tension on that anymore. So my problems to do with tape riding are not directly associated with a lack of back tension. I'll take the pinch roller off and apply a little rubber roller rejuvenator. Platen clean. Really intended for printer rollers, but the effect is the same. Nasty stuff though, you don't want to get it on your fingers. That can help take the sort of shininess off the pinch roller. What it won't do anything for though is if the pinch roller is barrel shaped, then it's barrel shaped, and this is not going to get you anywhere. But I don't believe that pinch roller is. I think that's got perfectly good straight edges. Yeah, if I had a brand new pinch roller, of course that would be really handy. And I will clean the capstan some more. I've cleaned this several times already and it's pretty good, but let's just prove the point. So I'm just rotating it against a cotton swab with IPA. That's not really taking a lot off now. It did a lot earlier. Okay, I'll reassemble that, but I'm sure it won't be any better. So what other things could be causing this? I'm starting to run out of ideas. One possibility might be a worn lower drum here. Well, yeah, because after all, we've got that horrible noise, which is partly due to a worn lower drum. It's the centre shaft of that. So if the lower drum is worn out, we have a big problem, because changing it on these machines is such a monstrous task, and with all the alignment procedures you have to do, for which we do not have the jigs and tapes, it's essentially impossible. Okay, let's try it one more time. We have a good amount of back tension, we have a non-shiny pinch roller, we have a clean tape path, and it's still crumpling the tape. Go on, admit it. You thought I was going to fix this. And, you know, if anyone was going to fix an N1700, I should have been able to do it. So I'm defeated by something, and I don't know what. It could well be a worn out lower drum, in which case it's all over. There's nothing we can do for this machine. Pinch roller, no, I don't think so. I really don't. That pinch roller doesn't look bad enough to be causing this problem, and the back tension is ample. So if you're familiar with N1502 and N1700 decks and you've ever seen this, let me know. But I think we may have to come back to this one another day. Hope you've enjoyed what we've done here. I'll do plenty more content on audio and video technology in the future, and hopefully with a little bit more success. Bye for now. it does feel like that N1700 will be worth another visit another day, but this video got a bit long. Next week I'll be doing something slightly different, not video related, but involving lots of water resistant switches. See you then.